Hi, Summer Stars. Today is day 5 of our read aloud for The One and Only Bob. All right, The One and Only Bob by Catherine Applegate. Today we're going to start on page 147, and we might get to 209. We'll see. Slowly, with some difficulty, Stretch peers down between his two front legs. His body partially shelters me from the rain. A piece of canvas has draped itself around his neck like an ugly scarf. I swallow my howls. We look at each other, too stunned to form actual words. Finally, Stretch clears his throat. Hello, he says, in a strangely calm voice. What kind of animal might you be, if you don't mind me asking? Dog. Didn't think you guys flew. We don't, as a rule. I pick myself up, move out from under Stretch, and take in my surroundings. The pelting rain has slowed some, and the wind has dulled. What was that? Stretch asks, trying and failing to yank the canvas off his impressive neck. Tornado, I think. I've seen tornadoes on the Weather Channel. They look like water swirling down a drain. If the water were black and full of trucks and trees, they look like death. I gaze up at him. I have to crane my neck. You okay? Yep, says Stretch. But from what I can see, a lot of folks aren't. Across the way, I hear something, a small squeak. Who lives over there? I ask Stretch. The Aardvark family, he replies. Lovely neighbors. Carefully, I venture across Stretch's domain. The sky is dark as dusk. I hear a fluttering of wings overhead. It's Mitch, the mockingbird. He's missing some feathers. Bob, he calls, settling on a fence post. Was that you I saw up there? Yep. How are things looking? Not good. Lot of damage. Well, take care of yourself, I say. Likewise. He pauses to straighten a wayward feather. Little hint, by the way. Next time you fly, try flapping your paws. I make my way over a broken wooden barrier, tiptoe across some scattered glass and twisted metal, cross the paved path, and arrive at the aardvarks. More sounds. They're coming from what looks like a demolished keeper's shed. I hesitate, not sure what to do. It's a big mess, and I'm a small guy. Also, my head hurts. I feel dazed, fuzzy. My ears are ringing. I yank off some small stray boards with my mouth. For the record, small stray boards have small stray nails in them. Underneath the boards are 3 shivering aardvarks, 2 babies, and a mom. They're strange looking, I gotta say, with their long piggy snouts and bunny ears. You good? I ask. What was that? The mother manages to ask. Some seriously bad weather. Is it over? I consult the wind. Doubt it. You think everybody's okay? She asks. Dunno. Sure hope so. And then it hits me. Ivan, Ruby, Julia, George. Look, I gotta go, I say in a strangled voice. Any part of your indoor den survive? She nods. Think so. Go there. Lie low. Where's Pedro? The littlest aardvark asks. I feel my head with a front paw. A nice bump is forming. Who's Pedro? Our keeper. He'll come, I promise. Are you sure? The baby asks. I'm sure, I say. But of course I'm lying. The eerie quiet doesn't last long. Before long, the squeals and shrieks and brays and squawks of the animal kingdom crowd the air. Terror, confusion, pain. From far off comes the wailing of sirens. Car alarms blare from the parking lot. Now and then people shout. Cries for help translate into any language, human or animal, fish or fowl. Never want to hear those again. Never, ever. And the smells. Like I said, feelings have a scent. I figured I'd smelled pretty much everything there was to inhale in this big old world, but the smell of sheer terror, of helplessness, of blood, of broken bones, of torn wings, well, turns out there are a whole lot of smells I've never encountered. Didn't know how lucky I'd been. I picked my way past the devastation. The tornado had left a random path of misery. The African aviary is gone, simply gone. The kids' farm nearby, untouched. although there are some very flustered chickens clucking like all get out from the safety of their henhouse. I see a few people. Hopefully, a lot of potential visitors were scared off by the threatening weather. It looks like some of the animals listened to their early warning systems, those little voices inside telling them something bad was coming their way. Quite a few seem to have taken cover before the brunt of the storm. Wish I'd paid more attention to my own internal weatherman. I pass the penguin viewing window, the one that allows visitors to watch their graceful swimming. Several penguins are underwater, swooping and swiveling. Joe, Jim, I call, and they both swim over. Bert okay? I ask. Baby Bert pops his little head out of the water. Hey, Bob, did you know we're having a storm? Yeah, I noticed. All good here, Bob, Joe says. You? Yep, I took a little flight, though. Daddy, says Bert, can I fly? In the air? Nope, says Joe. You fly underwater. You're a penguin. Bob flew, and he's a dog. Bob is a very special dog, says Joe, and he gives me a look, a grown-up, just between us look, then says, we're all right, but what about the others? Baby slop. I say goodbye to the penguins and continue on my way. So much has simply vanished. Walls, fences, barriers, netting. The orderly world of the park with its careful lines defining territory isn't so defined anymore. Many of the habitats are still entirely intact, but not all. What will this place be without fences and walls? You didn't need to watch the Nature Channel to know that certain animals like to eat other certain animals. I pass 2 squirrel monkeys swinging happily from the children's carousel. A pelican watches from his perch on a popcorn stand. I see a camel and a zebra together, looking stunned to be standing side by side. I notice a red lemur, Merlin, on a picnic table. Lemur eyes are always big if you ask me, but Merlin's eyes look like they're about to pop right out of his head. I make my way through splintered wood and glass shards and approach the gift shop. It's roofless. Stuffed toyed animals are scattered here and there like they tried to make a break for it. And I Love Koala's t-shirt dangles from a tree branch. Around a corner, I see a baby sloth, Sylvia, I think her name is. She's resting on a moldy plush giraffe. Hey there, I say. She makes a tiny noise, a sloth sob, I guess it is. Let's find your mom and dad. I'm not one for hugging and licking and such, but I give her a little nudge with my nose. Sylvia somehow manages to grab the giraffe, then looks at me like she expects to hitch a ride. How the heck do you pick up a baby sloth? It's not exactly part of my job description, and sloths are so, slothy. Carefully, I pick her up by the scruff, the way you do with a puppy. She puts that silly toy in her mouth, and off we go. It takes a few minutes, but I find her mom, Selma. I deposit Sylvia on a patch of wet grass. How can I thank you? Selma cries. No biggie, I say, and I head on, with fear in my belly and the odd taste of sloth fur in my mouth. I've ridden around the grounds in the park in Julia's backpack enough to know every inch of this place. I've even chatted with many of the residents, but now everything is topsy-turvy. I keep finding myself in places I don't want to be, like the wolf exhibit. Near the entrance, a sign lies crushed on the ground. It has a picture of a gray wolf with an arrow pointing one way, and another arrow with an emperor penguin on it. To my right, I see a piece of hay stuck deep in a tree trunk like a pencil in a cupcake. To my left, water gushes from a path-side ditch, a broken pipe. The boiling sky has settled into a solid blanket of gray, and the rain's quieted to a steady drizzle. Still, I smell more bad weather menacing in the distance. Tossed into a bush is a large informational display with a photo of 2 gray wolves. I don't see any fence or barrier or intact wall, and it dawns on me that grumpy wolves and tiny dogs might not make the best of pals, especially under these trying circumstances. Just as I start to leave, a wolf on the sign seems to move, to blink. Oh, he isn't part of the sign, he's next to the sign. It's Kimu. Hey, I say. No answer. Something tells me I should hightail it out of there. Something else is saying, make no sudden moves. I hate it when my brain disagrees with itself. I split the difference, crouching meekly. doing the whole submissive dog thing. Locks his gaze on me. I try not to make direct eye contact. A lot of animals find that threatening, but his eyes are so mesmerizing, glowing amber and way too smart. He moves again. 2 paws appear. Big paws. Nothing like my feeble shrimpy feet. These paws are the size of hamburger buns. Hamburger buns with lethal claws attached. I wait for him to launch into his pounce. Maybe if I time my escape just right. Yeah, sure, in a battle of Chihuahua, mutt versus wolf, but I wouldn't bet on the dog. Do they break your neck before they eat you? That only seems fair. My heart's doing this crazy tap dance in my chest, and I wonder if he can hear it. I sneak a peek at him. Strangely, he keeps staring at me. Quickly, I avert my gaze. Those eyes, those chilling, dangerous eyes. It's me, Bob, I say. Kimu says nothing. He's panting hard. Maybe he's disoriented, even hurt. I try to speak again. My voice seems to be hiding somewhere deep in my throat. Another try. Kimu? He blinks. Are you all right? No response. Anyone else hurt? I ask. This time he seems to hear me. I don't know. His voice is a low whisper. Can I help? I ask, really hoping the answer is no. Suzu, I can't find her. All right then, I say. I'll take a look. I poke around a bit, careful not to get too close to Kimu. A sour smell pours off him like sweat off a human. I don't see her, I say after a few minutes, but I'm sure she's fine, just a little shook up probably, hiding somewhere. He doesn't answer. I should go. I'm looking for some friends, I say. Is there anything else I can do? He looks up at the ominous sky as if there's an answer waiting there. I don't know, he says. I don't know. I move on. I have to find my friends. Have to, but where am I? I leap over another mangled signpost with a bent arrow. One way to Reptileville, one way to Lionland. I pass the mangrove swamp. A manatee pokes up her head, draped with Spanish moss like a silly wig. 2 workers in yellow raincoats trot past me. One has a bloody bandage on his cheek. I need to stop, regroup. Cool it, Bob, I tell myself. I'm panicking, not taking in the right data. I try to blot out all the horrible smells and all the awful noise. I concentrate and let my nose do the real work. A whiff of something familiar. Gorilla? It has to be gorilla. Full run now. I cut my back left paw on a shard of glass, trip, fall hard on my nose and cut it too. Dripping blood, I carry on. Find them. A massive old oak lies on its side at the entrance to Gorilla World. Huge tangled roots grope into the air like frozen snakes. And just beyond where Ivan lives is nothing but devastation. The stone wall separating Gorilla World and Elephant Odyssey is gone. Pieces of both domains mingle. An elephant toy here, a gorilla nest there. Part of the indoor gorilla space has crumbled to the ground. I scan the area where Ruby and her herd like to hang out. Nothing. No gorillas either. Out of nowhere, the rain picks up, coming sideways, blinding me. The wind howls like a hurt dog. This storm isn't over, not by a long shot. I leap over a pile of cement blocks, catch my hurt foot on something sharp, yelp, and keep going. Ivan, I call. Ruby! Nothing. I get to a slight rise, leap onto another overturned tree, and try to make sense of the damage. Red and blue lights cut through the rain. Police, fire engines, good. We need all the help we can get. I take in several lungfuls of the hideous air. It's too wet, too full of conflicting odors, a mishmash of scents I can't decipher, especially with my busted nose. The wind gathers speed, pushing at me with incredible force. Feels like it'll tear my ears right off my sore noggin. I can barely stay upright. Wind like that, storm wind, doesn't carry scent. It obliterates it. Help! Help us! It's a tiny, desperate voice. Maybe even Ruby's voice. I pick my way through the debris, trying to lock on the sound. It ain't easy. Please help us! Climbing over the remains of the wall, the one I was sitting on, what seems like moments ago, I find myself at the bank of the moat. Ruby! I call at the top of my lungs. Uncle Bob! The sound of my name cuts through the gloom like a shaft of sun. Ruby runs to the opposite edge of the water. She's maybe 8 feet away, but I can barely make her out in the torrential rain. You stay there, I yell, trying to be heard over the wind. I'll come to you. I follow the bank until I come to a spot where several chunks of wall had tumbled into the water. 3 careful leaps, and I'm across. Ruby runs to greet me. She wraps her mud-coated trunk around my neck, and boy, oh boy, am I happy to see that sweet little elephant. You hurt, Ruby, I ask. Is everyone all right? Ruby sniffles. Yes, but come quick. She dashes off before I can ask anything more. 5 of Ruby's aunts stand by the elephant side of the moat. Each one has her trunk plunged deep in the dark, muddy water. They look like a bunch of kids trying to find a lost toy in a swimming pool. It's almost funny until I see what they're reaching for. A baby gorilla is in the moat. The tiny gal keeps grabbing for a trunk to hold onto, then slipping free. Her terrified screeches fill the air. It's Kudzu, Ivan's favorite. I'm going in, said Maseka, one of the younger aunts. Might make things worse, Akilo cautions. Displace the mud, pull her down toward the bottom. I could go in, I suggest, the words popping out before I can swallow them. It's more mud than water, Bob. Akilo shakes her head. You'll get as stuck as Kudzu. I don't exactly argue the point. I've got an idea, comes a small voice. All the aunties turn to Ruby, and she looks startled to have their complete attention. A couple of us get on the other side of the moat, Ruby says. Grab trunks. We'll make like a, what do you call it? A sling, I exclaim, a hammock, like the gorillas have. I don't know, Ruby. Akilo sounds doubtful. Kudzu grabs for Maseka's trunk with both hands. Wait, Maseka says. Think I've got her this time. Maseka lifts her trunk with deliberate slowness, carefully trying to support the baby gorilla. But once again, Kudzu can't hold on. She lets out a despairing cry. Down she goes, lower this time, her nose and eyes just visible. Okay, Akila says with a nod at Ruby. Let's give Ruby's idea a try. Maseka, Lahili, Olodi, cross over to the far side. Zaina, Ruby, and I will take this side. All 3 elephants move with surprising quickness to the spot where I crossed. They gallop back until they're facing us. It's strange to see them on the other side of the moat. With the wall destroyed, they're technically in Ivan and Kenyani's domain. Move down a bit, Akilo instructs. That way. She motions with her head. We want to scoop her out, not push her down. 3 on one side, 3 on the other. The elephants reach out for each other's trunks, creating a kind of cradle. Okay now, says Akila. Lower carefully. Down they go into the muddy water. Ruby nearly loses her footing, so I grab her tail with my teeth. It doesn't really help, and she yells, ouch! But my heart's in the right place. Kudzu thrashes her tiny arms. Stay calm, I call. Easy for me to say. She looks over at me, and I will never forget the fear in her dark eyes, and then she vanishes below the surface. Hurry, Ruby cries. The elephants bend lower, moving like a giant elephant shovel. Where is she? Maseka asks. Lower, says Akila. Lower, sisters. There, Ruby yells. No, wait, there. Up, Akila commands, and the interlocked trunks rise from the muddy water to reveal a tiny, trembling baby gorilla sitting in their makeshift sling. Kudzu, says Akila. Stay calm, baby. We're going to toss you to safety, okay? Kudzu gives a little nod. On my count, says Akila. Start swinging. 1, 2, 3. Up and over go the trunks. Up and over goes Kudzu. She lands with a little plop on the gorilla side of the moat, right next to Maseka's rear legs. Good work, everyone, says Akila, and good thinking, Ruby. Thanks, elephants, said Kudzu, wiping mud from her eyes. That was fun. Can we do it again? Akila takes a deep breath. Maybe later, sweetheart. Quickly, I make my way back over to the moat. Kudzu, I say, follow me. Let's go find your 8 peeps. Can I go with Bob? Ruby asks Akila. Akila touches Ruby's back with her trunk. I'd much rather you stay here, dear. And it's may I. But Uncle Ivan, Ruby pleads. I'll keep an eye on her, I tell Akila. I'm going, Ruby says in her most determined voice. Maybe I can help. I helped just now. Akila hesitates, but finally gives a slow nod. Probably she figures there's no arguing with Ruby. She's right on that one. Ruby crosses the moat and joins Kudzu and me. Be careful, Akilo warns. There's more of this storm coming. I got her, Akilo, I say. You better have her, she warns. I think I flew, Bob, says Kudzu as we weave our way through the wasteland that was Gorilla World. Yeah, me too, I said. It's that kind of day. A handful of human firefighters and police, mostly, have begun to roam the grounds, checking out the damage. We pass a park employee with a weapon slung over his shoulder and a net in one hand. Tranquilizer gun, he tells a passing police officer. We don't know what's out there. She nods. How fast do they work? On something like a big cat? He shakes his head. Not fast enough. I look over at Ruby. Stay close, kid. As we near the gorilla villa, what's left of it anyways, a screech hits my ears that makes the wailing police sirens sound like meowing kittens. It's Kenyani. She's frantically knuckle running back and forth near the collapsed gorilla villa. Chunks of cement, shredded wooden beams, and bent metal lie everywhere. A cluster of gorilla females and juveniles huddle, not far from some rescue workers. There's Mama, Kudzu cries, dashing toward a gorilla named Jody. I'm so horrified by the destruction that I've almost forgotten my muddy little charge. I really shouldn't be trusted as an ape sitter. Kudzu darts over to her mother's waiting embrace. Jody nuzzles her and strokes her and says soothing mother gorilla things. Thank you, Jody mouths at me. Don't thank me, I say, looking over at Ruby. Thank this little gal. She figured out how to save Kudzu. Thank you. Ruby, isn't it? Ivan's friend? Ruby gives a shy nod. We all helped. I provided moral support, I add. I flew, Mama, says Kudzu. Of course you did, dear, says Jody. Kenyani's fresh wails focus my mind. I gotta go, I say. Ruby, you should stay here. I'm going for a no-nonsense voice, the one Julia uses on me when she calls me Robert. Let me see what's what. I'll be right back. No way, Uncle Bob, Ruby replies just as firmly. I give up, but I'm afraid of what she might see, of what we both might see. Any sign of Ivan? I ask Jody. She shakes her head, a grim look clouding her eyes. With Ruby by my side, we approach the pile of wreckage that used to be the gorilla villa. At the same moment, Ruby and I gasp. There's Ivan's hand, barely peeking through the rubble. I know that hand like the back of my own paw. No, Ruby screams, Uncle Ivan. I check the crowd. No sign of Julia or George, nothing. No Maya either, or other keepers I recognize, just a few employees, several rescue workers, and 2 or 3 dazed-looking visitors. Is he alive? A firefighter asks. Hand, whatever it's called, isn't moving, says another. Weaving my way through the tangle of legs, I climb up the rubble pile, sniff a bit, and bark my loudest. Yes, he's alive. Get your rears in gear, Bark. Just like those overachieving rescue dogs in the Man's Best Friend show. I listen for a sound from Ivan, a grunt, a cry for help, nothing. Still, he smells alive. At least I think he does. And that's good enough for me. Another dog races over, a tough-looking German shepherd, wearing an impressive glow-in-the-dark vest and some booty things to protect her feet from the rubble. But I hold my ground. This is my friend we're talking about. I lick Ivan's hand. His fingers twitch. Well, that's all it takes to get both of us barking like maniacs. More people gather. I see Maya next to Ruby, which makes me feel better. Name Zena, says the shepherd. Bob. I nudge Ivan's fingers with my nose. Nothing. And this is Ivan, my best bud. Sorry to hear it, she replies, and I don't like the sound of her voice. With great care, and far too slowly for my taste, rescue workers begin removing chunks of the wreckage and tossing them to one side. Zena and me, we mostly stay out of the way, but every so often I lick Ivan's hand, just so he knows we've got him covered. I glance over at Maya and Ruby. Maya is wiping tears from her eyes while she strokes Ruby's ears. Ruby is giving Maya a comforting trunk hug. Good old Ruby. Wise beyond her years, that gal. I check the crowd again. Still, no sign of Julia or George. And that's when a sickening thought hits me like a bite to the belly. What if Ivan isn't the only one under that rubble? More police cars and ambulances arrive at the park. A handful of keepers stream in, too, looking frantic and confused. The weirdest thing of all, wandering through all that destruction are random park residents. Animals, birds, reptiles. Residents who most definitely do not belong in Gorilla World. A police officer is chasing an armadillo. A great blue heron watches the mayhem, from her position atop a giraffe statue. A wallaby pokes his nose out of a bush, his saucer eyes catching the fire engine lights. Nets, someone yells. We need more nets. An older gentleman holding a blue umbrella lets out a blood-curdling scream. Dragon, he cries. I swear to you, I just saw a baby dragon. Sir, says a keeper named Malik, no worries. That's actually a Gila monster. His name is Gilligan. A paramedic raises his hand. They have like venom, don't they? They say a healthy adult won't die from it, Malik shrugs, although they'll be in some serious pain. Wonderful, the paramedic mutters. I glance over my shoulder to see Sarah running toward Maya. I can't hear her words, but I can definitely see the worry in her eyes. Zena's ears tip forward. They're getting the cutters in the jaws of life. Jaws, I repeat? I don't like the sound of that. Spreads metal. They're probably getting close. Come on, we need to get out of the way. I ain't going anywhere. I hear you, she says, and I can tell from the weary sound of her voice that she's had this conversation before. But the best thing for Ivan right now is to let the humans do their work. I think about it. Figure she's right. I give his fingers one last lick. They don't move. Nothing. Nada. We pick our way to the bottom of the debris pile. Hang in there, Ivan, I call. We love you, buddy. I know it's crazy, but I listen anyways, hoping for a sign, any sign, that he's still with us. I run to Kenyani. Don't worry, I tell her. He's going to make it. I can tell she doesn't believe me. From there, I head over to Maya and Sarah and Ruby. Maya has a radio handset in one hand, and for some reason, a young squirmy meerkat in the other. Sarah kneels down and hugs me tighter than any sweater she's ever knit. Bob, she cries, what happened to your nose? And look at your paw. Some dogs don't like to be hugged that way. I'm one of them. But Sarah needs to do it. I can tell somehow, so I let her. Isn't so bad, really. A new police officer joins us. Officer Williams, she nods at Maya. You're with the park, right? Yes, I'm Maya. This, Officer Williams pauses, we need to get this under control ASAP. Winds are going to pick up, and we haven't even hit the eye. Storm surge could be an issue. This one's moving slow. We've got a skeleton staff here, says Maya, as the meerkat attempts to eat her earring. Early reports say maybe a third of the habitats are damaged or destroyed. She shakes her head. We've got some injuries, some possible fatalities too. Human? Don't think so. Anything loose that could be, a problem? Maya presses her lips together. Yep. Such as a couple Florida panthers, gray wolves, python maybe, probably an alligator or two. American alligators, not Chinese. I don't care if they're from Canada. If they eat people, we're in trouble. They don't typically. Typically, Officer Williams repeats. Well, that's reassuring. Sarah loosens her grip on me ever so slightly. Maya, she asks, voice trembling, have you heard anything on the radio from George and Julia? I keep calling, but the cell towers are down. Nothing yet, Maya says, but I'm sure they're fine. Nearest shelter's over at Lincoln Elementary, says Officer Williams. You could check there. Sarah frowns. They were probably here right before the tornado hit. We're searching the park, ma'am, says the officer. We'll find them if they're here. Everybody clear out, a firefighter with a megaphone yells from a spot near Ivan. Could be danger of more collapse. We're working on this last metal beam. I look to see if Ivan's fingers are moving. Nothing. Hold on, Ivan, I yell. Nothing. Sometimes nothing is the worst sound in the world. Ruby lets out a little elephant cry, and then I realize maybe that's the worst sound in the world. The wind dies down to a whisper, as if the world is holding its breath along with the rest of us. Do you have any vets standing by? Asks Officer Williams as two more ambulances screech to a halt nearby. Yes, Maya nods. Not sure when they'll get here, though. Officer Williams waves down an ambulance crew member. You ever give CPR to a gorilla? Primate's a primate, I guess, he says, but he doesn't look too sure. What's going on? We're waiting on equipment, but we're stretched pretty thin. Lots of structural damage on the north side of town, says Officer Williams. They're going to get a chain on that last beam. Try pulling it free with one of the cars. Somebody under there? Gorilla, we think. Not sure what else or who else. I look at all the cement, all the wood and metal. Nobody could survive that. Not even a silverback gorilla with the strength of 8 men. And yet, Ivan's fingers moved. and then they didn't. Several minutes pass. The rain slows a bit along with the wind. The crowd watches as 3 firefighters attach a long chain to the metal beam next to Ivan, then hook it to a tow bar on the rear of a police car. "Back up, folks," calls the megaphone guy. "Farther." The chain clanks, the car growls, the wheels squeal. Grinding, groaning, progress just a bit. The big chunk of metal has definitely moved a whisker or two. More grinding. Wheels dig holes in the ground. Mud flies like thick brown rain. A lurch, a snap, clanks and rumbles as the big beam jerks free. The rescue workers move in, digging with their bare hands. Cement and dust and metal and bits and pieces of Gorilla World are everywhere. But where is Ivan? No movement. Nothing. But after a few more minutes, one thing is clear. A gorilla-shaped mound has appeared, covered by dust and dirt and debris and splattered with rain. It just lies there. I've lost a lot in my life. My whole family. Stella. But Ivan? No, it can't happen. Not Ivan. The mound sits up. Ivan emerges from a cloud of dust like a jumbo-sized ghost. He blinks several times, coughs, shakes, stretches a little. He's holding a banana, which he proceeds to eat. Everyone, and I do mean everyone, cheers. Well, that's a perfect place to stop for today. I will be back on Monday with more of the story. I had to read until you guys saw that Ivan was okay. I didn't want you worrying all weekend. If you guys are writing in a reading reflection journal, you can write about any part of the story that you would like, but one thing that comes to mind for me is bravery. Do you think Bob is brave, or do you think he's not brave? He doesn't think he's very brave, but I'm wondering if you have a different opinion. So that might be something to think or write about today. All right, I will see you Monday with a new read aloud of this story. I can't wait to see what happens.